Okay, so a couple days ago, before the Series X reveal event, I did a video about Series X. It received quite the negative backlash with over 4,000 dislikes. Honestly, was not expecting that. I was not expecting it to get dislike bombed or for anything that I said to honestly be controversial. I recall the only thing I said in the video is that PS4 has better exclusives and they've done a better job at investing in first-party games, which is just objectively true. That's not really an opinion. And I was kind of criticizing their strategy with Series X. Phil Spencer has been talking shit about PS4 and about how the specs are better on Series X and all these other things, and I think that that has rubbed me the wrong way, mainly because there's no good games to play on the Series X or any Xbox for that matter. There hasn't been a good Xbox exclusive in many, many years. Hear that with PS4, which just released Ghost of Tsushima back-to-back to Last of Us 2, two blockbuster games, the biggest games of the year, exclusive to PS4. Meanwhile, what big Xbox exclusives are coming out this year? Oh yeah, Halo Infinite. We saw the trailer for that at the Xbox reveal event, and the gameplay did not look all that good. Okay, well, the gameplay didn't look that bad. It was more the graphics. There was this image going around that famously looked very, very terrible, and a lot of people were sharing this on Twitter. It literally looks like a PS2 game or Xbox pre-360 game. And you know, in my last video, I said I am not a shill for either Sony or Xbox, and people just didn't believe me, and people kept commenting, oh, you're clearly biased because you're saying these opinions. No, the reason that I was saying the things that I was saying is because I'm actually very objective, and I don't care about the console war at all. I'm literally just calling balls and strikes. People saying, oh, you were a Sony pony, and they were saying I was a shill and anti-Xbox, and I was just like, what? I mean, anyone that knows me at all, like my friends that know me and talk to me, no, I really don't care. All the things that I'm saying about Xbox are just because as a fan, I'm so thoroughly underwhelmed with what they're doing. I'm not going to be buying a Series X when I did buy an Xbox One. I also had a 360. Really, it comes down to incompetence. It comes down to the incompetence of Phil Spencer and the team at Xbox, because they're pushing this Games Pass, which doesn't really have any desirable exclusive games on it, excluding maybe one or two. And also they're bragging about the graphics, 12 T-flops of RAM. But the thing is with that 12 T-flops, what can we get out of it? We can get Series X, of course, Halo Infinite, and that doesn't look very good at all. So why does that matter? The game probably looks about the same on Xbox One because it's not a very advanced game compared to, of course, The Last of Us, which came out on PS4. Yes, the PS4 is certainly a weaker system than the Series X. However, The Last of Us 2 on PS4 looks better than Halo Infinite on Series X. As a result of that, does it really matter if the Series X has 12 T-flops, or does it matter if PS4 only has however much it has? Not really, because The Last of Us 2 looks better than any other game that is going to be released on Series X as far as we've seen. It is a powerful console. It is more powerful than PS5, but think about what really drives console sales. It is not so much hardware. That certainly is a part of it, but if you remember, PS3 had better hardware than Xbox 360, but Xbox 360 pretty much dominated that. It was much closer than PS4 versus Xbox One, but Xbox 360 was incredibly popular, even though that PS3 was more powerful. And in this case, the PS5 is going to absolutely crush the Xbox Series X. So in many of the console gens, the weaker console actually won. What wins gamers over are two things, pretty much the games and the user experience. And the user experience encapsulates a couple of things, one being what console everyone's friends are on. There's a certain bandwagon effect to gaming consoles, right? Like if all of my best friends have a PS5, I'm more inclined to buy a PS5 even if I have a preference to the Series X, because cross-compatibility is not a big thing yet. The other part of the user experience is like what apps and bonus features, the Blu-ray and TV integration might have been a pitch for some people with Xbox One, particularly those that just almost wanted like a DVR or a cable box more than a console itself. That certainly drove some sales of the Xbox One. I thought the Xbox One was a very versatile console. I thought that it was really quite good as a console, and the forced Kinect integration was a huge mistake. But besides that, I thought that they did an okay job with Xbox One, excluding the fact that they did not have many graphics that are really going to make it so that I'm like, oh, I need to get my Xbox One fixed because this new Xbox game is coming out. And in the case of Halo, it's certainly not up there for me. It doesn't have that same pull that a game like The Last of Us or Batman or Ghost of Tsushima or these other original IPs have really been able to draw a lot of attention, create a lot of hype, and that's not really the case for Halo. Now, with this new Halo gameplay, they added the grapple. I thought the shooting mechanics looked pretty good. Overall, it looks like a solid FPS, as Halo is one of the most iconic and classic first-person shooter franchises of all time. The problem is that Microsoft is relying solely upon it, and they're not diversifying, and they're not trying to find their Ghost of Tsushima, their Last of Us. They need to find that equivalent for the Game Pass for Xbox, because right now, There is not really an exclusive that I need to buy an Xbox to get, and I cannot say the same for PlayStation, where it seems like every year or every other year they have at least one game where you just have to play it. You have to know what happens. You've got to experience that game. From Spider-Man to Uncharted to God of War, all of these studios create phenomenal games, and even though they have 15 studios under the Xbox first-party umbrella, you probably can't name 2 of them. In fact, people are going to say, oh, well, this proves that you don't know anything and you don't know what you're talking about. But I mean, literally 343, they make Halo. That's what I know. And Cyberpunk is also going to be a big thing. But once again, excluding and getting beyond that, what really does Xbox have going for it? They have a lot of indie studios creating first party games, but the difference is that Sony once again is churning out these fantastic AAA A-list top-tier games every single year, and Xbox is having 2 Halo games a gen, 3 Halo games a gen, and none of them particularly astounding or incredible or groundbreaking. They're basically relying upon the legacy of Halo and sort of the nostalgia that series has with people, and I don't think that is going to work solely to sell consoles. Once again, you can brag about the graphics all you want, but if your first-party exclusives cannot really utilize that 12 T-flops, then what is the point, honestly? When you look at PS4, a game on PS4 looks better than a game on Series X. You can brag about the 12 T-flops all you want, but the games look better on PS4 because they're better produced. They're produced by higher quality studios, and they're fantastic first-party exclusives. You have someone like Naughty Dog. They have a great attention to detail. Rocksteady's games look beautiful. If Microsoft were to buy them out, then they could certainly utilize those 12 T-flops, but it doesn't look like Microsoft is going to do that. They've already admitted that for the first several years, there will not be any Series X exclusives. That is not to say that there will not be Xbox exclusive games, but rather these games that come out on Series X will also be on Xbox One to give people a couple years to switch over. One thing I do worry about with that is that it's going to basically limit devs, and they're going to feel like they cannot utilize the Xbox Series X to its fullest potential because they want to be able to make the games for the Xbox One to sell it on Xbox One, Series X, and, of course, PC. So I do kind of worry that initiative from Microsoft is going to hold back studios, and that's why this Halo game doesn't look all that great, because it has to be compatible for both Series X and Xbox One. And, of course, if you make the game that is too technically complex, it will never run on Xbox One because, the technology was created in 2013. It's an old console. Contrarily, I feel like Sony is the one pushing their first-party studios into next-gen, and even though there might be some sort of malicious ulterior motives in doing so, that they want to sell new consoles, they want to sell the PS5, and they want people to get rid of their PS4s, I still think that it's honestly best for the industry moving forward to essentially allow these studios and empower them to create new games that could only work on next gen because they're that complex and powerful and technically advanced. And I think compared to Xbox's model, which is you need to make sure that the game is not too complex and it can still run on Xbox One, that is probably not best for the industry. The other thing to note here is that games are moving up to $70 in this next gen. So a game like Halo Infinite, we really expect to have phenomenal graphics, a fantastic story, fantastic multiplayer, and we still need to see the multiplayer. We'll see where that goes, but the gameplay and the campaign was pretty good. It was sort of quintessential Halo. I thought that it improved on a couple things. The grapple hook looked good. The gameplay was smooth. It was just the graphics were really lacking, and it didn't really look up to speed with some of the games that we're seeing on Sony's console. Again, people can choose not to believe me that I have some bias towards Sony. It's just simply not true. And people that know me know that I have no horse in this race, and I really do not care at all, at all. But for whatever reason, I think whenever you take a side, people accuse you of malice, of ill intention, and I really just think everything that I'm pointing out is incredibly obvious. It's incredibly obvious that that Xbox is lacking in their exclusives, and that Halo is not enough to push consoles, and that Sony is better first-party exclusive. They have better first-party studios. I think that all of these things are just objectively obvious, and it's amazing to me that people got so upset in my prior video. I thought that the Series X showcase was really, really bad. There was just nothing to get excited about there. Most of the games they showed didn't even have gameplay. They were basically CGI game trailers. Some of the games we've been waiting years and years for, and there still was no gameplay demo. Even with Halo Infinite, it was like a highly structured gameplay demo that was pre-recorded and very highly choreographed by the person playing the game, and I hate when they do that in those gameplay demos. And it's very interesting to me. I feel like if I were a hardcore Xbox fanboy, I would be the first one to be the most critical of them. But for whatever reason, it's like this weird war where, because I'm perceived as a Sony pony or whatever, that people will not stand for me to criticize them. But I see in the Xbox forums, people can be honest about what's happening. And as I said, if I were a huge Xbox fan and I was even planning on buying PS5, I just want to be a Series X guy, I'd be like, where the fuck are the games? What am I supposed to be getting excited about here? Where are the better graphics on Halo Infinite? I feel like they should be the ones that are the most critical of the brand that they love. I mean, for me personally, that's the way I am with the properties I care the most about, Batman Arkham, for instance, and DC Comics and other properties. Like, a lot of people accuse me of being negative about them, but it's really just because I'm the most passionate, and your most passionate fans do tend to be the most critical at points because they care the most. I think that Xbox fans need to honestly put the heat on their beloved franchise a little bit more and push Phil Spencer to get his head out of his you-know-what and realize that the Game Pass is not going to save him, that 12 T-flops isn't going to do anything. They need great exclusives. They need first-party games. They need features and utility that Sony cannot provide, and a slightly more advanced console is not enough to sell. And that's exactly what we saw with PS3. Xbox 360 outsold PS3 for many, many years leading into the console gen, and that's because why? They had exclusive COD DLC. They had many other exclusive games. Halo was incredibly hot. Now, that's the thing with Halo, is that if Halo were what it was 10 years ago, I would say a Halo exclusive is enough to actually, that's enough. You don't need anything more than that. But it's not. It's the year 2020. Halo is not what it's used to be, just like with Call of Duty, just like with Gears of War, these other franchises that reigned in the late 2000s, early 2010s. These franchises are pretty much not big console pushers anymore. This is coming, once again, from a big FPS guy, big into the FPS console scene. They just don't push units. 1 month exclusive DLC for COD doesn't do much. Halo doesn't do anything to really push sales, not that much anyway. Compare that to what it was, once again, in 2011, 2012, at the Halo 3, Halo 4 days, Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3. These other games, I think it would be a very successful push. It was at that level of The Last of Us, and now games like The Last of Us are pretty much outselling Call of Duty. So, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm very curious to know what you guys thought about the Series X reveal. I think they need to show a lot more games. They need to acquire new first-party studios, create games that you can only play on the Xbox, and give us really a reason to buy the console, because right now, it's powerful, but we can pretty much only play games that are multi-console, sports games, FIFA, NBA, those types of games. Occasionally, once again, we'll get a Halo, we'll get a Cyberpunk, we'll get an occasional solid exclusive. I did like one of the story games that they showed. It kind of looked like a Telltale game. I thought there were a couple of good games in there, but mostly just indie stuff. It's mostly indie stuff. Nothing really on the level of The Last of Us 2, let's say, or Ghost of Tsushima by Sucker Punch, Naughty Dog, these other studios. Nothing quite there. I think that acquiring Rocksteady, acquiring W Montreal would be a huge step in the right direction for them, but, we'll see if they do that. Now, one final note on this. You may notice that in terms of the console war, the cheapest console has always won. In the case of the PS3 versus 360, the 360 was the cheaper console and won the console war. In the event of the PS4 and the Xbox One, if you remember, the Xbox One retailed for $500. You had to buy the Kinect. The PS4 was $100 cheaper and won that console war far and away. Now the rumors are that the Xbox Series S, which is their entry model into next gen, which will not actually have 4K, it'll be 1440p and still look quite good, but it will not be in 4K. That console is going to retail for $200. And the Series X, which is their highest level console, is going to be $400. Contrarily, the PS5 alone costs $450 to manufacture, which will likely lead to a $500 plus retail price. Now, knowing the fact that the cheapest console has always won the console war, I will say that there is a chance that Series X could come away here victorious if they really are retailing the Series S at $200 and Series X at $400. Even still, though, I think that the need to play those PlayStation first-party games from Naughty Dog, Uncharted, Uncharted games, Sucker Punch, Naughty Dog, Insomniac, etc., that is going to be enough to drive sales, and they probably still will lose to Sony just because Sony has that incredible AAA games list that they simply don't have on Xbox. Even still, though, that is a huge opportunity for them, and if they can undercut Sony substantially, that really is a way to generate a lot of console sales. The question really is where the game's going to be. Okay, guys, hope you'll have enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Here's a shout-out to all of my elite members. For $10 a month, you get a shout-out in every single one of my videos, and Of course, for $5 a month, you get a bonus exclusive video every single Sunday. Thank you all so much for tuning in. My name is Slickmoff. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.